eBay friends. This is Suzanne A. Wells, your hostess, and this is episode number 123 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is July 26th, 2023, and my guest is Bill in California. A couple of announcements. First, regarding the USPS changes that went into effect on July 9th, I have reworked my shipping chart for eBay sellers in an attempt to help sellers understand and compare the USPS services. You can download that chart for free in my Facebook group. It is also in the premium library, so you can grab it there. Second announcement. As your fearless leader, I like to pass on things that I enjoy that you might not know about. I always appreciate when people tell me about cool and fun things, so I like to do the same. This is not an ad, just something I'm enjoying. It's a podcast called Stuff You Should Know. I love these guys, Josh and Chuck. They are very entertaining. I often listen to this podcast when I am working on my eBay listings or working out at the gym or just working around the house, whatever. They cover all kinds of random topics, and the episodes aren't too long, so you get fun tidbits of information. They started their podcast in 2008 and have hundreds of episodes, so lots to choose from, and you can find something you like. So check that out if you are always on the hunt for fun podcasts to listen to. Again, the name is Stuff You Should Know, because really, we should all know stuff. Okay, on to the chat with Bill.
Welcome back, listeners. Today we have Bill with us. And Bill, tell us where you're located.
I am in Porterville, California.
And what is that near?
Porterville is about halfway between Bakersfield and Fresno. We're at the base of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Okay. The Sequoia National Forest is just up the hill from us.
That is on my bucket list to visit.
Yeah, well, if you ever make it out this way, let me know and I'll take you and show you some awesome redwood groves.
Let's quantify that with when I make it out that way.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Telling the universe that it's going to happen.
That's
not
it,
like
yeah.
Maybe, kind of, sort of, but we're going to do that. So
I also let people know that if they've seen the movie McFarland, we're about 30 miles north west of there, the one with Kevin Costner.
I have not seen that, so I will check that out.
Yeah.
There's so many movies now with all these independent streaming channels and production companies, and It's just hard to even know what's out there.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get back to the topic of reselling. Tell us a little bit about what got you started. Was there one certain event that pushed you into it, or how did that start for you?
Sure. I think I actually got started probably way back in 2002. I was living on a college campus. I was a resident director of a men's dormitory, and I noticed a lot of the college students, when they were leaving, they had a bunch of textbooks they were leaving, DVDs, and I think at the time eBay had half.com.
Yes, for books.
Yeah, for books. And I was a little bit hesitant to actually get into eBay. The pictures and the shipping, and especially at that time, we didn't have the phones. It wasn't so easy to do everything on the phone. So, but all you had to do with the textbooks is just type in the ISBN number, and everything came up automatic. So when they would leave their books piled up by the trash cans, I'd just grab those and would resell them there. And when we moved away from that, I took a extended long break from that. And it wasn't until about, I think it was 2018, maybe, I bought a storage unit. And yeah. And again, I was still kind of hesitant to get involved on eBay. Wasn't real comfortable with the idea of doing pictures and shipping and weighing. I sold everything off through the other local options, the marketplace and all of that. But I had one item that I held back on the advice of a friend. He said, that might be worth something. It was a 1977 Pepsi character glass, Mighty Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those character glasses aren't worth a lot. But
right.
Mighty Mouse, I held on to. It took me several months. And finally, I got tired of looking at it in the garage. And I bit the bullet and I watched some videos and I figured it out. And I fired up my eBay account again and listed it and sold it within an hour for $145.
Excellent. For one drinking glass.
Yeah, one glass. And I think that is that was the start right there.
Right.
And
that's what gets you hooked.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, that's all it took. So from there, I kind of, started listing things we had at the house. Maybe it was old clothing. Maybe it was things we were getting rid of. I watched some more YouTube videos. I started maybe going to yard sales. Some of the things I remember from early on, I think I remember buying a new in-the-box Bible at a garage sale one time. Paid $0.25 for it. And was along, I listed it and bought it, or somebody bought it for $50. And it took me a while, again, kind of slow. Probably about the next year around, I bought another storage unit. The big items or things that didn't really apply to eBay very well, I sold off local yard sales or whatever. But did list more things on eBay. There were a bunch of games in there that I listed, maybe some sporting things, jackets, glasses, glassware. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she says to me, and I don't know how she knows this, but she said, "Oh, there were some empty iPhone boxes. Oh, those sell. People buy those." I said, "Really?" And there was 3 of them, and I listed them, and sure enough, people bought empty iPhone boxes.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you ready to gain the inside scoop on business success? Introducing Vantage Point, the podcast that unveils the secrets of Australian business success. Join us as we sit down with inspiring founders and CEOs and discuss the journey to building multi-million-dollar businesses. Discover the hidden gems of the business world and gain insights that could change your financial future. Subscribe now to Vantage Point on your favourite podcast platform and be inspired by the success stories that Australian businesses have to offer.
Well, and I think some of that is for the cell phone stores that aren't like, Verizon. They're just like independently owned. And so they use the boxes when they're selling used iPhones.
Yeah, they must.
For whatever reason, but I do know that happens. So, and I have 2 things to interject here before I lose my train of thought.
Okay, go ahead.
First, on the college roundup stuff. When I heard, it must have been back in the 2010s or something, when I was doing some coaching, I had a client who did that. And I just thought that was the most brilliant idea in the world, because she lived in New York and she would go around to all the colleges on move out days and just see what they left behind on the curb. And she would pick up books. And her husband was a professor at, I think, New York University or something, and he had passed away. But so she and him did that all the time and sold books, that they would just find sitting on the steps or whatever. And that was so brilliant, to go around on move out day, because you can get more than just books. It's all kinds of stuff. So that is an excellent tip. And then the other question is about the storage unit auctions. Are you still doing that?
I do it on occasion. I bought one more last October. I bought one. Well, actually, I bought 4 last October. And then in March, I was going to buy some more. We had a lot of rain in March, and I did not buy any then. I didn't want to get involved with it at that time, trying to deal with it in all the rain. Also, they were going for a lot of money, so I did not buy one at that time. Yeah, so.
So can you give us some tips on that for any listeners that might be considering that? Because sure. I think the trivia question on maybe last week's or a previous episode was all about minimalism and how many storage unit facilities there are in the United States, and it's like 55,000. So that's got to be an opportunity for people to buy the ones that are abandoned and not paid for and all that stuff. But I've never done it, so I don't even know how it works. Can you give us a quick and dirty rundown on that?
Sure. The ones I've done have always been live and in person. Anymore, you can do some of them online. I've not done an online one. The live and in person, I would just say know that up front, it is going to be a lot of work to begin with. You never know what you're going to get into. You're going to be digging through other people's stuff. And sometimes people are very tidy and sometimes they are very messy and not very clean at all.
Yeah, I can imagine like, oh, what's in that box? It could be spiders. It could be 4,000 vintage postcards. You just open it and you're just like, okay, what's this going to be? Is it going to be alive and moving?
Yeah. And even somebody who's a tidy person, it can all be covered in dust.
Right.
And you'll get completely dirty in the dust.
Well, critters can get in there. I've heard about people seeing snakes and big scary spiders and all kinds of stuff in there because you don't know how long it's been sitting there, and some of them are not climate controlled. They're where critters can get in there.
Yeah. Well, and for some reason, some people decide to store food and dog food and other things, and that's an attractor for mice.
Good point.
So. If you're if you're sensitive to things like that, it's probably not for you.
Or easily freaked out would be a good way to say it.
And my wife worries anymore. She won't let the kids. I have 2 daughters, 2 teenage daughters. She won't let them help me at all. She worries that somebody's going to, get into a big batch of fentanyl or something like that. And
I know you don't know what could be in there. So it's a concern, all kidding aside, like what might you be opening up?
But I would say that just don't, I don't want to overextend myself on one. Right. I bought this last time in October, I bought a unit. I specifically wanted to buy a unit that had a lot of bins in it. Because I thought my thinking was somebody has put things away in bins are important. So I bought this unit, had a lot of bins. Every bin was empty. And there was some chairs, and I was able to recoup my costs on the chairs. I only spent about $60 on the unit, so that was good. And also I'm using the bins now for my stuff.
It wasn't a complete loss.
My inventory system. Yeah. Right. So that was good. But, at least I didn't spend, $200 or $300 on it.
Right.
And you have to be creative. Sometimes, it's not always going to be for eBay resale. You have to take if you have a lot of metal, you have to find out, okay, I'm going to go recycle it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, sometimes don't always judge a book by its cover. The one this last October that I bought, my true prize, nobody else bid on it, and it was what I call the messy unit. It opened, it was just a massive pile of clothing.
See, for me, I just salivate at that. I'm like, ooh, what's in there?
Yeah, right. And I'm really surprised nobody bid on it. It was one of the an early item. It was like maybe the second or third one. I could see back in there were some bins. I got it for $10. And that unit, although there's not a major score, there's just a lot of bread and butter stuff that has just continued to pay off.
Okay.
There were a lot of sporting items. There was an $80 49ers jacket. There were Bibles that I paid off. There was a pair of 10-carat Black Hills gold earrings that I've paid off. There was some things I haven't even figured out yet. Like I don't know much about pearls. There were some necklaces. I don't know if they are real or not. I don't have a connection with the jeweler, but they as far, so I need to check into that. There was several 49ers footballs. One I sold when the 49ers were in the playoffs for $50. That was kind of a limited edition item. It just continues to pay off.
Okay. So a couple of questions. I've never done them because there were too much criteria that I couldn't meet. So you have to take everything that's in there, and it doesn't matter if it's like an 800-pound hulking, hutch for somebody's dining room, whatever. You have to be able to get everything out of there in a certain amount of time. So that's kind of what stopped me as a person doing this business by myself. And like, I don't have a big vehicle. I guess you could rent a U-Haul to take your stuff. And then you have to have somewhere to take it if you don't have room for it at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you talk about those logistics a little bit?
Sure. I the particular facility that I've used, it's a local one that their rules are, you buy it, everything in there is yours. They give you 48 hours to clean it out. They do have maybe some leeway on it, but I've never gone over that time frame. Mm-hmm. And everything is yours. You figure out how to deal with it. There is one other facility that I've been at that they actually had a large dumpster on site that they would allow you to put stuff in. The one that I normally do, they don't do that. So I think probably for the most part, most places are going to have you take it all away.
Right. And so you have to think through that before, like,
sure,
am I going to take the garbage?
Sure.
Where do I have helpers to help load the stuff on a truck?
Sure.
Because some of that furniture, there's no way you can do it by yourself. So you kind of have to have your whole system set up before you even buy the first one, because you don't know what's going to be in there.
That's right. Yeah. I had bought a unit before. The second unit that I bought was a 10 by 20, and it had a lot of good items, but it did look like somebody had pretty much a dump truck full of garbage, or not garbage, but trash that they just backed up in there and dumped off. It was full. I have a friend, he has a big dump trailer, and he helped me. We took 2 loads to the dump of that. There was broken furniture in there, and so that comes out of you have to pay for that, of course. So that comes out of your profit. I still made money on the deal, but that's your time, there's your energy, and luckily I have a friend who I guess indulges me, so to speak.
Well, he's probably as curious as you are, like, what's going to be in there.
Oh yeah, and I paid him back with some of the items that were in there that he would have been interested in. So he got some records out of the deal. He wanted some other material that I was not going to do anything with. So yeah.
Well, and I've heard stories and like read in newspaper articles and stuff like, oh, we bought this storage unit, for $200, and it had a roll top desk in it that has all those little compartments, we found $10,000 in cash in one of the compartments. Have you ever found any cash or anything like that, like hidden inside something?
The only thing I found is this last unit that I bought, my messy unit, was some coins that I don't really know why they have them. I'm not a coin collector, other than maybe they're keeping them as uncirculated. Mm-hmm. They're newer ones. They're in very nice condition. They're all in little baggies. or maybe they think they're worth something. There's some of like the Sacagawea ones, as well as some of the newer. As far as I can tell, there and it's some silver dollars, things like that. I have, so maybe they're trying to keep them uncirculated. I have those set aside.
Mhm.
I have found gift cards with balances on them before.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Well, and I remember reading a story, and I don't know if this was a Goodwill thrift store thing, that somebody found a Purple Heart in like a desk drawer or some kind of furniture. And just so the listeners, if you ever find one, you can contact, I think, the Veterans Administration, or there's some organization that helps find the homes for these missing, military medals. And yeah, somebody found a Purple Heart in some kind of furniture. And this was in the newspaper probably 10 years ago. But they got it back to the owner, and it wasn't supposed to be donated. And the family was so grateful because the person had died. And so, if you find something like that, you absolutely want to get it back to the family.
Sure.
And there are organizations, I can't remember off the top of my head what they are, but you can Google that, because what a thing to be accidentally donated. Like cash is no problem. I would totally keep that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's my surprise for buying this item. But something like a, Purple Heart, Silver Star, all those kind of things. That's really personal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, thank you for that brief education on storage unit auctions. I feel like as we go on in time and more of these storage units are created, they're going to fill up. And a lot of them just, somebody dies and the family doesn't even know they have this.
Oh yeah.
Or I do know a lady that contacted me one time, and she's like, I've had this storage unit with my parents' stuff. I've been paying something like $100 a month for, it was at least 10 years. And she was just terrified to clean it out because it was so overwhelming. So she just didn't, no action was her action, was just do nothing.
Sure.
And, me, I'm like, oh, I could totally help you do that, and you could pay me in product. I don't even need cash. We can come up. That's how I do it when I help people is we agree on products that I can take to compensate me for my time. And then I sell them. So, but yeah, I just feel like this is going to get more and more out of control, I guess, with all these storage units. And this may be a way for people to go, because we're all seeing thrift stores just, I'm sorry, they're just getting crappier and crappier.
Oh yeah. We have a couple.
It's harder to find good things. Yeah.
I don't really, I go in a few times, but I rarely find anything good.
So let's talk about where you do find good things and what those things are.
Sure. Most of my sourcing has turned into estate sales. I do some yard sales, but there's a local estate sale company. Our town's relatively small. We're about 60,000 people. Mm-hmm. One estate sale company, local in particular, that's been having them almost weekly, and I've really been surprised at how much stuff I get through them as I look back on my stuff. So that's
well, and I'm delving into that more and more now, because my frustration in thrift stores has just reached the breaking point. I'm just like, I'm so frustrated. I go and spend all this time and I'm just not finding what I want to find.
Sure.
So I've been getting into that estate sale situation. Some of these companies are franchises.
Oh,
It's the single owner of Joe's estate sales. These are franchises that are national. And I really like that because there's a system. They have guidelines to go by, and it's not just, throwing caution to the wind with this one guy doing it. It's predictable, just like a Chick-fil-A, it's predictable. Sure. Yeah. So I had no idea that was going on. So I like that.
Yeah. I think that there can be, I think I've heard within maybe some other podcasts that there's some shadiness that goes on within some of the estate sale.
Oh, absolutely.
This I will say, this local one that we have are very, very nice, trustworthy people. There's one other company that I have gone to one of their sales, and I questioned them because this owner also has an antique booth in the next town over. I'm wondering how much stuff she, kind of gets off for herself. How
it just kind of disappears from the estate sale and shows up in her antique booth.
I mean, I think that there's laws. I think that there are some laws having to do with the contracts about what they can and can't do with the stuff that's left. But, who's overseeing that? And maybe an employee buys it and they buy it.
Especially like with the smalls can disappear very easily.
Oh, sure.
And if it's, a house jam-packed full of stuff, I think the number is the average American home has 300,000 items.
Yeah.
I think it's more. I've been to some homes. I'm like, oh no, this is like double that. You can't even walk. There's so much stuff in there. If you've got a team of 8 people prepping for the sale and pricing and sorting and all of that, I can imagine things disappear.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about some stuff you found and sold.
Okay, sure. Well, I'll tell you, one of my favorite finds was I went to this estate sale at kind of a local celebrity, and this company really built it up. And it was kind of a little, this lady, her family's local historian. She's a photographer in town, has kind of a little farmhouse out on the outskirts. This was on day 2 of it, and I walk into what would kind of be the kind of a large mudroom, and I'm looking around, and to the right behind the door there's a set of bookshelves, and I'm going through. There's some books and there's some DVDs, and I'm going through that. And I happen to look down on the shelving. On the very bottom, there's a box of papers, and on top, there's some old, it looks like maybe old candles. And so I sat down on the floor. I'm starting going through this. And as I'm going through, I find there is a box. It's an old computer game, an old PC game called Zach McCracken and the Alien Mind Benders. It's it's from the 80s.
I thought you were going to say The Legend of Zelda. Isn't that one that's, because you started with that Z word. I thought that's where you were going, but no, it's something different.
No, Zach McCracken. And so I did a quick look up, and it looked it's a little confusing because there's a lot of different options with the kind of systems it can go with. And anyway, long story short, I ended up selling it for $225. And I got it for, a song, really. I got a giant pile of stuff at the sale for maybe $20 total.
So maybe you have $1 in that, and it sold for $225, you said?
$225.
Excellent.
Yeah. And so along with another game, computer game that sold for $40 there. Again, so I would just say that, again, this was on day 2 of the sale, and I don't think anybody even looked in there.
Yeah, it's so odd how they just throw stuff in boxes, and I like the free boxes.
Sure.
Now, here's something that happened when I was learning about estate sales, like, I don't know, 2014, something like that. I went to this one, and they had a free box, and in that box was one of those cardboard folders that you used to put your coins in, like for coin collecting. So you open that cardboard folder, and it was all full of pennies, all these different pennies, and it was free. And I'm like, I know nothing about coins, but this is free. So even if it's just a learning thing, I'm going to take this. So I get it home and I start researching, and there's one penny in there. It was an Indian head. It was like 1877 maybe. And it was the rare one.
Oh, wow.
And so I sold that one penny for $100. And then I sold the rest of the book, because I checked every single one after that.
Bet, yeah.
It was maybe like I don't know, 50 in there. And I just sat there checking them because you just don't know. And none of them were really valuable enough to sell on their own, but I sold the whole folder with the pennies for $90.
Wow.
So $190 for something out of the free box and an item
Wow.
I had absolutely zero experience with, and a little bit intimidated by coins because
Sure.
I just feel like that's very specialized knowledge. And,
Oh yeah.
I'm just
sure.
like, oh, I'll sell anything. What is this? So I love that story about the box that nobody wanted because look what you found.
Yeah. Yeah. That was probably my best find at an estate sale. I went to another estate sale, again, a local place. This lady, we're talking about a house that's full of stuff. This lady's she's over 100 years old. She's still alive.
Oh, wow.
She's no longer living in this house, but she can't, live on her own anymore. And she's with her family, and they're, kind of undoing this home. She's lived there. They had lived in the house for about 50 years, I think. She had been a Tupperware dealer back in the 70s. And on the pictures, it's there's one whole closet in the picture that's a double door closet, completely full of Tupperware. And then when you turn around, there's another closet from floor to ceiling full of Tupperware. And then where a breakfast nook, there's complete pile of Tupperware. I mean, I took a 50-gallon trash bag, construction black trash bag, and I filled that up with Tupperware at this sale. Just Tupperware. And then there was other things I got. And I got from there, this was a fun item. It was a radio from the 60s, 1965, one of the spherical transistor radios.
Right.
And when I opened it up, I don't know if anybody has opened the box since 1965. The battery in there was still wrapped in plastic. The little earpiece that you'd put in still has the original plastic band on it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I sold that. The comps were I think it's about $65, $70. I sold it for, but it just amazes me that, this person has hung on to this item in their house all these years. And, it's almost like, why are you keeping this thing?
And you don't even know if they know they had it because, it could have been pushed to the back of a closet or put in a box and put in the attic. And it's out at the estate sale because they stage everything, but you don't know, where was it all this time?
Yeah.
And, spouses, sometimes they buy things and don't tell the other spouse. I remember being at a estate sale one time and there was golf clubs and they looked really nice. That's not something I want to sell. But she had $20 on them and they were practically brand new. And I was like, these are probably $300 or more if you could, resell them because they were a good brand. And somebody was talking to her about it and she said, $20 is good. My husband bought all this stuff he didn't tell me about, and the husband had died. So she was finding all these things that he had squirreled away.
Oh yeah.
You know how much he paid for them because that wasn't her role in the relationship. He handled all the money and she never knew. So I think there's a lot of that going on when somebody passes away. It's the survivors discovering what is this? Where did these come from? How much did Dad pay for all these things?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now there was at that same sale, there was a what did I buy? Oh, it was in the box. It still had the warranty card, and this item was a slide rule. And
really?
The slide rule itself was still in plastic. It was as if you could take it off the shelf. I think it was from 1962. It was like it came off the shelf in 1962 and got put up in the cupboard. And I sold that for $89.
It's like you walked into a time capsule.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And how much did you pay for it? Do you remember?
Again, that at that place on day one, I filled the bed of my pickup halfway full, and I paid $157. So, and I just sold from that haul this weekend. There was two, and I put it on the Facebook Money Making Mondays today. There were two of the little anthropomorphic figures, the little worms, and I dug them out of the pile this weekend and listed them yesterday, Sunday, and they sold for $70. So that came from the haul. That haul.
Yeah, I've been seeing those anthropomorphic things like the onions and the salt and pepper shakers that are like vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And it's a weird market because some of those are worth a lot.
Yeah.
And some of them are worth nothing. Here they are. Yeah, I'm looking. Vintage Joseph Originals Love Bugs Caterpillar figurines.
Yeah.
And they're little like green worms. One has a flower on her back. And you said you took a $70 offer. And how fast did they sell?
Oh, just within the day. I listed them in the morning, and then by about maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I accepted the offer.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great sale. And for the listeners, anthropomorphic means having human qualities, something that isn't human, that like they'll put eyes and eyelashes on them and, make them look human. And that was a big thing back in the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
With all the tableware, the salt and pepper shakers, creamers, sugars, all those little things you hang on the wall. There's birds that look like, they have a human face. And that's a fun item to find. And they were salt and pepper shakers, so they were tiny.
Yeah. They're really small, great to ship, super easy to ship. And that item in particular was a nice score because I'm looking around the living room and it's in a little glass terrarium on the windowsill, kind of behind the couch. One of my favorite things to do at these estate sales is just, looking in all the little nooks and crannies, on the top shelf, on the bottom shelf, underneath all the papers. Yeah,
I think things on the bottom, no matter where you go, if it's a thrift store, antique mall, whatever, a lot of people don't, squat down to look at them.
Sure.
Or they get pushed to the back, like somebody's going to come back later and get it. And so they push it all the way to the back. So I just think, humans are basically lazy.
Yeah.
And like they don't bend down. And then if you're vertically challenged like me, I'm only 5'2", I can't see some of the stuff on the top.
Oh yeah.
When I was selling books, I used to carry around a little foldable step stool so I could get up to the top shelf in places and see what's up there. So how tall are you?
I'm about 5'10".
Okay. So you're, average height. So you could probably see more of what's on the top, but I think people just are basically lazy. They look at eye level. I'm the same way in a grocery store. Every time I can't find something, it's on the way top where I can't see it.
Sure. The marketers know that. They put everything at eye level for most people.
That's right. And then they put like the oddities and the less popular products way up high or way down low. But anyway, a note for the listeners is, either bring a child with you that can squat down and look down there, or just take the time to do that, because you're right. And people put things in the wrong place. And, or if it's a smaller home and they just don't have a lot of room, but there's way too much stuff in there. And, another thing in estate sales I've learned is that they don't put every single thing out on the first day.
No.
If there's a lot of items, there's no room. So they put some stuff out and sell that off and then restock. So even if you go on the second or third day, you might see different things that you didn't see the first day.
Yeah. In fact, I got admonished at one sale because I'm digging in the boxes underneath the tables.
Oh, and they're like, we're not ready to show those yet.
I said, oh, really? Okay. I just act dumb. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
No,
okay.
really?
Yeah, I saw this over here and I wanted to look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about some more of your finds because I know you have sold a lot of cool stuff.
Sure. Yeah. A different sale that I went to. Went to this one in a different. I almost didn't go to it because I have a regular full-time job, and I usually have to kind of, if they have a sale on a Friday, I need to try to get leave, and maybe sneak away for an hour or so. And I almost didn't go, but then I did, and I went to the sale and I got 2 boxes of books and a bag of items, an IKEA bag, mostly full of stuff. I paid $15 for everything. And one of the books I got was called, it was a 25-year kind of a history of this company about a skateboarding company. And it sold, it's an out of print book from about, I think maybe 2004, 2007, something like that. It sold for $129.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was good. And at the same sale, this one item, it was a little Christmas ornament, and it was it looked like it was from Universal Studios, and it looked like the tram that you get on at Universal's when you go do a tour. And I couldn't find any comps on it anywhere. I looked on the Terapeak and I tried a bunch of different wordings. I couldn't find anything. But I just know from having watched some other videos and YouTubes that, for example, Disneyland monorail stuff is sometimes desirable, and certain other odd little transportation things like the RV from Christmas or the National Lampoon's Christmas. Yeah, Vacation.
Yeah, Vacation and the National Lampoon's Christmas, right.
Yeah, yeah. And so I just kind of went out on a limb and I priced it at $100. And it was listed, didn't have a lot of action on it. And then a few weeks ago, actually it was the weekend of June 25th, because I did a sale, a halfway to Christmas half off sale. And I listed that half off, and it sold that weekend for $50.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think a lot of that National Lampoon stuff from the 80s movies is highly desired, like Christmas ornaments and anything, posters, because that was definitely a different time.
Oh,
I don't think you make those movies like that anymore.
No, I don't know. You can't get away with a lot of that.
Yes, vintage Chevy Chase is definitely collectible.
And here's one of my other favorite sales that I did. It was actually one Saturday. I had worked overtime at my job, and I didn't get to go do yard selling. This was in February this year. And on the way home, I hit a yard sale, and I was talking with the person there, and I had just had my business cards printed up, and she was talking about she was going to do herself an estate sale. And I said, well, when you get ready, give me a call. And I gave her that. Oh, you sell on eBay? She says. Well, here I have an eBay special for you, and it was this little ashtray. It was a wheel. The outside was real rubber, and the inside was chrome, and it had a little removable hub. It was a BMW hub that would go on it. And so she charged me $3. And I came home and I priced it out, and because I just know that advertising stuff, car stuff can be worth money. In looking at solds, like prices are anywhere from maybe, let's say, $30 to maybe $130.
Mm-hmm.
this was, so I just really started in earnest reselling this last October. So I'm trying to figure it out. I started it on an auction, and my starting price, I kind of wanted to go with a price I'd be okay with getting, a dream price. So I started it at $78, and it set all week long. And I woke up that next Saturday morning and I had a bid for $78. About 2 o'clock was when the auction closed, and pretty soon, close to that, I got a couple quick cha-chings, and it sold for $101 and I don't know, 75 cents.
And what was the item again?
It was a BMW wheel ashtray.
Ashtray.
Yeah, something like
that car stuff, the car logo stuff, really, it can surprise you.
Yeah.
People that are into whatever the make is, they have all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love the smalls that go for so much money.
Oh yeah, those are the best. I just spent the whole morning packing up a set of Coors Light bar lights, like matching bottle, and I just spent several hours getting those packed up. They might go for a couple $100, but they're a pain in the neck.
Right. Well, it's hard to leave things behind when they're valuable.
Sure.
It really is. I have to stop myself all the time. Wait, do I want to ship that? Do I want to store that? Do I want to look at that for maybe a year?
Yeah, exactly. I just got it listed, and I'm like, what's going to happen now?
Okay, well, what else you got?
Here's a fun thing. Back in December, my cousin was cleaning out his shed and gave me some game systems to list. And just kind of as an afterthought, they had a pair of sunglasses that his kid had worn when he was in high school. They were a pair of Oakley sunglasses with white frames. And I had them listed for a while. When I first did the comps and checked them out, there wasn't an exact ones that matched the make and model, all that. And there was one pair on there that I think was kind of absurd at maybe $600. And that just seemed crazy to me. I had them listed at maybe $100 for a few months, and they didn't sell. Then in watching some videos, somebody had talked about one of the Y2K was a buzzword.
Okay.
And I was thinking, I thought, oh, well, I think Chancey was in high school about that time. And so I edited the post to include Y2K, and I actually upped the price of the item by $49. And within a week, it sold for $149.
And these were Oakley sunglasses.
Oakley sunglasses, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've heard about the Y2K keyword thing. I guess I need to go back through my listings and add that.
Yeah, it doesn't work on everything. I've tried it on some if I think about them. And of course, sometimes you're just keyword spamming. I try not to do that.
Right.
I really try to think, okay, were these, is this a legit Y2K item? Give or take a few years either way.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's vintage now because that's 23 years ago. So sure. 20 years old is technically, in the reselling world, it's vintage.
That's right. Right. That's what I tell people all the time. They don't want to believe it, but it's true.
Well, it's reseller lingo. You have to know, vintage used to refer to wines and like really old stuff. No, we use that all the time. And I learned another keyword the other day called poverty core.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know that?
No, I don't, but it sounds interesting.
Like cottage core is all about the nature and outside and that, cottage life. But this was called poverty core, and it's like ripped up clothing.
Okay.
Like you're trying to look poor.
Well, I'll try that because, it's funny, out of some of my storage units, I had some old shirts that were all thrashed, and I listed those. I listed them because I saw on one of the other groups that somebody had sold a Sturgis from the 80s Sturgis T-shirt that sold to somebody for maybe $500.
I know, those are crazy expensive.
Yeah, and I thought, oh well, I think I have some Sturgis shirts from that my $10 unit,
Okay.
And so I went out and I dug through the clothes, and I had some Sturgis, and I did the comps, and they weren't that good. They were newer. I don't think they had the right image, but I listed. Nevertheless, I had several thrashed motorcycle shirts, and I listed them, and they sold not for anywhere near $500. They were all maybe $5-10 marks based on my comps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I made a bad choice, but it was a fun sale. I actually made a neat contact with a buyer that has bought other stuff from me.
Mm-hmm.
And well, actually a couple buyers that have bought other stuff from me. So that was a good couple of sales.
Yes, absolutely. And who ever dreamed that, when we were kids and being raised in the 70s and 80s, it was like, I was raised in the South, and we're kind of conservative here. And, the stuff that sells now is like, my mother would be horrified that people are wearing these ripped up clothes, and, they're wearing them on purpose. And she would be like, we would wear messy clothes or whatever. And she'd be like, you look like a street urchin. Go put on some nicer clothes.
Exactly.
But this is my most comfortable shirt and sweatpants. Well, you're not wearing that, So, yeah.
I recently had a good contact. One of my coworkers went to look at buying a house, and she tells me I should go over and talk to the realtor, because this man has to leave this house. He's going to move. His wife has died 6 months ago. He's going to go move in with his daughter in Las Vegas. And the house is just full of stuff. So I've made contact with the realtor. The realtor has put me in touch with this man. And I've been over to his house several times for private picks. And it's been very lucrative for me. He's a nice guy. I've made a good relationship with him. But when I was over there talking to him, it's a strange thing to go into a person's house while they're still living and just looking around and going, oh, do you want this? And you just take something off the counter and buy it from them right there.
It's not really strange, because when I go to other people's homes, I see things all over the place. That's all I'm doing is like, oh my gosh, it's the Sears Mary mushroom stuff. Oh my gosh, it's this, this thing that I know is worth money. And I don't say anything. This one person had like a clear goldfish bowl full of concert ticket stubs.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just salivating. I'm like,
I bet.
What are you going to do with that? And so, that's just my husband's. It's just a decoration, It's like, So anyway, it's just that you don't know them when you're going into their home. And I was going to ask you your business card. You said you've been giving those out, and you, among others, do this. So what does yours say?
Mine just basically has I just kind of made a little title for myself. I call it the dog patch picker. And I say, I'll buy your collections, books, comic books, T-shirts, hats. And then down the bottom, I say, don't call Goodwill, call Good Bill.
Oh, there you go. I love it.
Thanks. And I have my phone number, and I have found it's really, it's good. I'm not afraid to tell people when I'm out doing this. This is what I do. And, I'm trying to think if it's paid off, maybe a little here and there. I'm kind of building some relationships, and
that's what you have to do, is get those repeat customers.
Yeah. So
once you start giving them money, as George Kelly says, they will call you again.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that reselling might be going in that direction because the thrift stores just aren't getting what they used to get.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, I've been in the business 20 years, so I see a difference, and the shelves are bare. They can't get employees to stay, and that's the problem. The back is full, but they can't get people to put stuff out on the floor. And, two people show up to work. Well, one has to run the register, and, they don't have the employees to do the work. And so many are selling their better stuff online on goodwill.org or whatever it is.
Sure.
Or there's just new ways of reselling and getting inventory. I just think we're going to be moving towards building relationships with people and getting into their homes before the stuff gets donated, and then it gets, beat up and ruined and thrown around. And I would love to see a video on start to finish at Goodwill, like stuff that comes in and then it gets dumped in this bin and then it gets dumped over here and stuff breaks. How much, what do they call that in retail? I guess waste. Just how many things treasures get ruined throughout the whole thrift store process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think you're smart to do it the way you're doing it. And, if you don't ask, you don't get. How many people out there don't even realize there's people like us that will pay them cash for their stuff?
Yeah, I don't think that people even, begin to understand that they, can get some money for their stuff and not just throw it out or throw it away or,
Yeah, I think it's just the overwhelm factor. Like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just going to donate most of it and move on.
Sure.
And, then I think you have to have a certain mindset, like your brain has to work a certain way to see the value in all this stuff. And like, when people ask me what I do, I'm like, oh, I specialize in things that people think are worthless.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it. It seems like what I notice is that people, what they think is not worth anything oftentimes is, and what they think is worth a lot usually isn't. It seems. Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, nobody wants this Coca-Cola bear. I'm like, no, because 800 million were made.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
How about this receipt from when you purchased a Cadillac back in 1972?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're probably like this too. If you ever help anybody clean out and you're like, don't throw anything away. And I mean, anything. Let me look at it first.
For sure. For sure.
Because the average person that is not a reseller is absolutely clueless about what collectors want.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had, I sold, and this was not a big sale, but it was out of that messy unit. It was a towel, a Harley Davidson towel. And I tell people I would not have used this towel to dry off my dog with.
It was nasty.
It was threadbare. It probably wouldn't have held up, but I still sold it for, I think, maybe $10. And, it was amongst other stuff to somebody. I think it went to your neck of the woods. I think it went to North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I'd rather have $10 in my pocket than a towel in the trash. So.
Well, and we also look at things as raw material. Like somebody could make something out of that vintage Disney bed sheet that is kind of threadbare and it's faded and it's not perfect. Like people make tote bags out of that and cut out certain parts of it that are in good condition and frame them and do all kind of things with these vintage items that the average non-reselling person is absolutely ignorant about. And I say ignorant because they just don't know. These are not stupid people. They just don't know because they're not in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have been going about an hour. So we're going to wrap this up. And I know we could talk for many more hours.
Oh, sure. I can talk about reselling all day long.
So we'll just have you back on again another time.
Oh, perfect.
We're just going to recycle you.
Okay.
So the last question is just sort of a personality thing.
Okay.
What book are you reading right now?
All right. I'm gonna give you two because I don't want to make it sound like I'm smarter than I am. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is just my brain candy book. The one I just finished. It was from the Monster Hunters International series, where these people who are they go around, and it's just a series where they're mercenary company who monsters exist in the real world and they're killing them, right? They're destroying them, getting paid, adventure type. I call it brain candy. Okay.
Okay. Well, they're not trying to kill Bigfoot, are they?
I don't think they killed Bigfoot, but they're doing werewolves, Dracula, vampires.
I love Bigfoot. He's real.
I don't know. I don't think they've encountered Bigfoot yet in there, but we'll see. So that's but the one that I'm reading right now it's called Never Split the Difference, and it's about negotiation. And I actually kind of started it because of my reselling.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to see if I could incorporate some of the strategies in there while I'm out doing some of this stuff. So
can you give us one rule of negotiation?
Well, let me think. Okay. One of the things
I have one rule is never be the first person to say a number.
Sure.
You let them do it because it may be much less than you were going to say.
Yeah.
That's what I go by.
Yeah. That's a good one. This one, the man who wrote it is a FBI negotiator. He does a lot of hostage negotiation. So it's from that standpoint.
Is his name John Douglas?
Chris Voss.
Okay, yeah. John Douglas did like Mindhunter, and he started the whole FBI profiling, and I love his books.
Yeah, I've read the Mindhunter book. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No, so one of the strategies, for example, is you're just kind of repeating back sometimes what the other person's saying. You're building empathy with the person that you're negotiating with.
Okay.
Or here's another one. Don't be afraid of no, for example. You're not always, and a lot of times in sales, you're trying to get to, and we're not doing sales, we're buying.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A lot of times in sales, we're trying to get to yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes you want to get to no. So you're trying to get the no out there. You might ask something like, oh, are you gonna get stuck? You want to be stuck with all this extra stuff at the end of the day? Something like that. I mean, that's kind of a ham-fisted example, but I just thought off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid to negotiate, but another of my mantras is, if you don't ask, you don't get. The worst thing that can happen is somebody says no. And there's actually a guy, I think I've mentioned this before, that I can't remember his name or the name of the video, but he was afraid of hearing no. So he made up this challenge for 100 days. I think it's like 100 days of no. And he just went around and asked people the craziest stuff just to see if they would say yes and to get used to hearing no. And so he would just go up to somebody and say, can I borrow $100? And most people would say no, but other people would be like, well, what's going on? Why do you need that? Or he'd go knock on somebody's door and say, hey, can I plant some flowers around your mailbox? And he just did all these crazy things. And he was surprised at how many people said yes.
Yeah.
It was like that whole desensitizing himself to hearing the word no, to where at the end of the 100 days, didn't bother him at all. He just was like, okay, I'm just closer to the next yes. And that's the way you got to think about it.
Yeah, and you might repeat back, the person's situation to them. So, if you're on an estate sale, you might strike up this conversation and repeat back what they're trying to accomplish. And, of course, in an estate sale, they're trying to get rid of everything, especially if it's a family-run estate sale, or they're trying to get rid of all this stuff. Just this weekend, I was at one where trying to get rid of all her brother's stuff. I ended up buying a massive Disney pin lot from these folks.
Okay.
So, and it's just, so and I don't think it's, it's not necessarily, you might see it as manipulation. I don't think it really is. You're trying to get to the common goal. People want to get rid of this stuff, and you're trying to get it. You're trying to really help them get rid of it. And you're not going to get it. You're not going to buy it at a price that's harmful to yourself. It's not going to meet your own goal. So they're not. You need to kind of get them to understand you need it at the right price in order to make it worth your time. These Disney pins take forever to figure out.
Oh yeah,
by the way,
a lot of research.
Oh my gosh.
It's the whole let's make a deal thing. It's got to work for both sides, and it's got to be fair for both sides. And you can tell them you're a reseller and you're like, hey, I've got to be able to make money on this.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's just, the whole Monty Hall, let's make a deal.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, Bill. Well, thank you so much for coming on and enlightening us on so many things. I will definitely have you back on after a while. We can see what else you've gotten into.
Thanks. Happy to do it. We'll see what we're doing in a year or so. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, it's great to meet you, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Okay. You too. Bye.
Thanks again, Bill, for coming on the show and sharing so much wonderful information. Just a side note regarding finding a Purple Heart, because I know some of you out there are going to come across this situation. You can go to military.com, and there are several different ways to get a Purple Heart back to its owner or the family of the owner. There's a site called Purple Hearts Reunited. You can report the found medal. Make sure you include information such as any engraving on the medal, where you found it, when you found it, and a photo of the medal. There's also the Lost Hearts database in the Purple Hearts Reunited website to see whether the medal you found is listed. Third, you can send the medal to Purple Hearts Reunited by registered mail to be cataloged and researched. Purple Hearts Reunited will keep in contact with you and let you know whether there will be a return ceremony once the owner is found. So you probably won't remember all of that, but at least you know there are ways to get these medals back to the owner or the family of the owner. And you can always Google what to do if you find a Purple Heart, and you can figure that out pretty easily. Okay, today's trivia question. Since we touched on one of my favorite subjects / creatures, what size shoe would Bigfoot wear? Here's a few seconds to think it over. Okay, Bigfoot would be a size 21. Researchers came to this conclusion by studying plaster casts of alleged Bigfoot prints in the mud and dirt. Imagine if that was your job, researching Bigfoot. Okay, and we're going to end on that note. Next week, my guest is Donnie, who has been selling on eBay for less than a year and having all kinds of success. I know a lot of you out there listening haven't started eBay yet. You're getting your ducks in a row, or maybe you're on a break and you're planning to come back at some point. And you might be a little intimidated by sellers who have been in the game for a really long time. So to keep this podcast relatable, I like to have sellers of all levels on the podcast, because everyone, I don't care how new you are or what you have or have not done in life, has valuable information to share. So kudos to Donnie for coming on the podcast and sharing her journey. Okay, That wraps up this episode. Thank you for tuning in and supporting this podcast. And I will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.